Edith Stein was born on October 12, 1891, in Breslau, Germany. She was the youngest of 11 children in a Jewish family. The death of her father when she was 2 years old forced her mother, Augusta, to raise the children alone while managing the family business. From an early age, Edith showed great intelligence and a thirst for knowledge. In school, Edith was a brilliant student. She excelled in all subjects, with a special interest in philosophy and psychology. Her passion for studies led her to enroll at the University of Breslau in 1911, a remarkable achievement for a woman at that time. Her family valued education and supported her academic ambitions. Edith transferred to the University of Göttingen to study with Edmund Husserl, a famous philosopher. Under his guidance, she immersed herself in phenomenology, a field of study that seeks to describe human experience. Her doctoral thesis was widely recognized, cementing her reputation as a promising philosopher. Despite her Jewish upbringing, Edith went through a period of religious skepticism. She considered herself an atheist during her university years, seeking philosophical answers to existential questions that troubled her. This constant questioning would be a crucial factor in her future conversion to Catholicism. Edith Stein stood out at the University of Göttingen, where she became Edmund Husserl's assistant. Her dedication to studies and her ability to analyze complex concepts impressed her colleagues and professors. She significantly contributed to phenomenology, publishing articles and participating in academic conferences. Her work in phenomenology focused on the nature of empathy, exploring how we understand and share the experiences of others. This research was revolutionary, bringing new perspectives to philosophy and psychology. Edith believed that understanding empathy was essential for understanding human relationships. During World War I, Edith served as a volunteer nurse. This experience exposed her to human suffering directly, deepening her reflection on the human condition and the need for compassion. Working on the front influenced her future research and philosophical writings. After the war, Edith completed her doctoral thesis, receiving high praise. However, despite her academic success, she faced difficulties in obtaining a teaching position due to prejudice against women in academia. This made her rethink her professional and personal path. Seeking new challenges, Edith began translating works of important philosophers and theologians. Her work as a translator brought her closer to the writings of Saint Thomas Aquinas, which sparked her interest in Christianity. This interest soon turned into a profound religious conviction. Edmund Husserl was the main intellectual influence in Edith Stein's life. As her mentor, he introduced her to phenomenology, a philosophical approach that seeks to understand conscious experience. Under his guidance, Edith developed a deep understanding of phenomenological principles, applying them to her research on empathy. Husserl's work emphasized the importance of returning to the things themselves, that is, examining direct and immediate experience without presuppositions. This approach resonated strongly with Edith, who saw in phenomenology a rigorous method for investigating the nature of the mind and perception. Besides Husserl, Edith was influenced by other thinkers such as Max Scheler, whose ideas on ethics and values enriched her philosophical understanding. Scheler argued that values are perceived intuitively, a perspective that Edith incorporated into her own philosophy. The contact with these currents of thought allowed Edith to develop a unique and integrated vision of phenomenology and ethics. She argued that empathy was a fundamental skill for morality, as it allows us to recognize and respond to the suffering of others. This insight was a significant advance in contemporary philosophy. During her years as a student and Husserl's assistant, Edith also engaged with intellectual circles that discussed philosophical and social issues. These interactions enriched her thinking and prepared her for future contributions to both philosophy and theology. Edith Stein converted to Catholicism in 1922, a decisive milestone in her life. The conversion resulted from a long process of spiritual and intellectual search. Influenced by the writings of Saint Teresa of Ávila, she found answers to many of the questions that had troubled her since her youth. Reading Saint Teresa's autobiography was a turning point. Edith spent an entire night reading the book and, upon finishing, felt a profound certainty that she had found the truth. Saint Teresa's story, marked by mystical experiences and unshakable faith, deeply moved Edith. Her conversion to Catholicism was received with surprise by many of her colleagues and family. However, for Edith, it was a natural step in her quest for truth. She was baptized in the Catholic Church on January 1, 1922, and began to live according to her new faith. The decision to convert also had professional implications. Edith stopped pursuing a traditional academic career and began teaching in Catholic schools for women. This new path allowed her to combine her passion for teaching with her religious commitment. From her conversion, Edith began writing about theological and philosophical themes with a new focus. She explored the relationship between faith and reason, seeking to show how philosophy could complement and enrich theology. Her work in this area is considered an important contribution to contemporary Christian thought. In 1933, Edith Stein entered the convent of the Discalced Carmelites in Cologne, adopting the religious name of Sister Teresa Benedicta of the Cross. Her decision to become a nun was motivated by the search for a life of prayer and contemplation, away from the world's turmoil. In the convent, Edith found the peace and simplicity she sought. She dedicated her hours to prayer, study, and community duties. This new life allowed her to deepen her spirituality and explore new dimensions of her faith. Her time in the convent was marked by intense intellectual production, writing about theology, philosophy, and spirituality. Life in the convent also offered Edith the opportunity to fully live her religious vocation. She saw in the monastic life a way to unite more intimately with God, offering her sufferings and prayers for the world. This sense of mission was especially important in a period of growing persecution and instability in Europe. Despite the cloistered environment, Edith was aware of external events, especially the rise of Nazism and the persecution of Jews. In 1938, to escape anti-Semitic policies, she was transferred to a convent in the Netherlands. Even far from Germany, she knew that danger was still present. The move to the Netherlands was an attempt to protect Edith, but in 1942, after the Nazi occupation, she was arrested and deported to Auschwitz. Until the end, Edith maintained her faith and dignity, offering comfort to other prisoners and living her vocation in an exemplary manner. In the convent, Edith Stein continued to write, combining her philosophical background with her new faith. Her works address themes such as the relationship between philosophy and theology, the nature of women, and Carmelite spirituality. One of her most important works was Finite and Eternal Being, where she explored the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas in light of phenomenology. Edith also wrote extensively about the education of women. She believed that intellectual and spiritual formation was essential for the full development of each person. Her ideas influenced the Catholic renewal movement in education, highlighting the importance of an integral approach that considered the whole person. Her theological writings reflected a deep understanding of Christian mysticism. Inspired by Saint Teresa of Ávila and Saint John of the Cross, Edith explored the soul's paths towards God, emphasizing the importance of prayer and mystical union. These texts are considered classics of Carmelite spirituality. Despite the hardships of the time, Edith never ceased to contribute to Christian thought. Her works were recognized for their depth and originality, and she continued to be a respected voice in the academic and religious community. Her contributions helped shape the dialogue between modern philosophy and Christian theology. Edith Stein combined her academic experience with a life of deep spirituality. This unique combination made her an influential figure in both the philosophical and religious worlds. Her legacy endures, inspiring scholars and believers to this day. The rise of Nazism in Germany brought dark times for Edith Stein and her family. As Jews, they were targeted by the regime's racist and anti-Semitic policies. The persecution of Jews intensified after the Nuremberg laws were enacted in 1935, which excluded Jews from public life and restricted their rights. Edith, now a Catholic nun, was doubly threatened. Her commitment to the Christian faith and her Jewish origin made her a target. She knew that, as a convert and intellectual, she was in danger, but she decided to stand firm in her vocation and faith. Her courage in the face of oppression was a testament to her deep religious conviction. In 1938, during Kristallnacht, many Jews were attacked, their properties destroyed, and hundreds were arrested. This event marked an intensification of violence and persecution. Edith, concerned for her safety and that of her sister Rosa, who had also converted to Catholicism, sought refuge outside Germany. The situation for Jews in Europe continued to deteriorate with the onset of World War II. Deportations to concentration camps began, and millions of Jews were murdered. Edith, aware of the fate of many of her compatriots, lived her final years in prayer and solidarity with the persecuted. Edith Stein's life during this period is a testimony of faith and resilience. She remained dedicated to her religious mission, even knowing that it could cost her life. Her story is a powerful reminder of the devastating impact of hatred and the importance of moral courage in times of crisis. In 1938, to escape the growing Nazi persecution, Edith Stein was transferred to the convent of the Discalced Carmelites in Acht, the Netherlands. This move was an attempt to protect Edith and her sister Rosa, who also joined her in the convent. The Carmelite community welcomed them with solidarity and compassion. At the Carmelo of Acht, Edith continued her life of prayer and study. She focused on writing about Carmelite spirituality and Christian mysticism. Despite the uncertainties and dangers, she found a certain peace in the contemplative environment of the convent. Her reflections during this period are considered some of her most profound and inspiring works. Even in exile, Edith was aware of the atrocities occurring in Europe. She offered her prayers and sacrifices for the victims of the war and persecution. Her unwavering faith and spirit of sacrifice were evident in all her actions and writings. Edith believed that her life in the convent had a greater purpose, serving as an intercessor for suffering humanity. The relative safety at the Carmelo of Acht was shaken in 1940 when Nazi Germany invaded the Netherlands. The occupation brought new threats, and the situation for Jews and converts to Christianity became increasingly dangerous. Edith knew she was at risk but chose to remain with her religious community. Edith's decision to stay at the Carmelo, even knowing the danger, was an act of deep faith and courage. She believed that God was with her, regardless of what happened. Her determination to follow her vocation to the end is a testimony to her spiritual strength and trust in divine providence. On August 2, 1942, Edith Stein and her sister Rosa were arrested by the Gestapo as part of a Nazi retaliation against Jews who had converted to Christianity. They were taken from the convent in Echt and interned in the Westerbork transit camp in the Netherlands. This was the beginning of their final journey to Auschwitz. In her final days, Edith Stein showed extraordinary courage and faith. In the Westerbork camp, she comforted other prisoners, showing a serenity that inspired everyone around her. Her presence was a beacon of hope amid despair. The journey to Auschwitz was a terrible experience, but Edith remained calm and dignified. She believed her suffering had a greater purpose and offered her pains as a sacrifice to God. Her unwavering faith was evident in her actions and words, comforting others even in the worst conditions. Upon arriving at Auschwitz, Edith was separated from her sister Rosa and taken to the gas chambers. Until the last moment, she prayed and kept her trust in God. Her death was swift, but her spirit of courage and faith remained a powerful testimony to all who knew her. Edith Stein's courage in her final days is an example of how faith can sustain a person in the most difficult moments. She believed that God was with her even in death, and her unwavering trust is an inspiration to many. Her life and death are a testimony to the strength of faith and the human spirit. Edith Stein's legacy, her courage, and her unwavering faith continue to inspire many people around the world. Her story is a reminder of the importance of compassion, human dignity, and resistance against injustice. Her life is an example of how faith can give meaning and strength even in the most terrible circumstances. After World War II, Edith Stein's life and sacrifice were recognized by the Catholic Church. In 1962, the beatification process began, culminating on May 1, 1987, when Pope John Paul II declared her blessed. This was in homage to her martyrdom and her dedication to faith, even in the face of extreme persecution. Edith Stein's canonization took place on October 11, 1998, again by Pope John Paul II. She was declared a saint and martyr, recognizing her life of faith, her intellectual contribution, and her final sacrifice at Auschwitz. Edith Stein is commemorated as Saint Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, and her legacy continues to inspire many. Edith's life is an example of how faith can guide and sustain a person in times of great suffering. Her canonization was a recognition of her role as a witness to faith in times of persecution. Her story continues to be a source of inspiration for those who face difficulties and seek meaning in their faith. In addition to her canonization, Edith Stein was also proclaimed co-patroness of Europe in 1999, alongside Saint Bridget of Sweden and Saint Catherine of Siena. This honor highlighted her role in promoting peace, justice, and interfaith dialogue. Her life and work are an example of how faith and reason can complement each other. The recognition of Edith Stein's sainthood by the Catholic Church is a confirmation of her lasting impact. Her life and sacrifice are remembered as a testimony of courage and faith. Her legacy continues to influence both the Church and society at large. Edith Stein left an indelible mark on philosophy and theology. Her contributions to phenomenology and her integration with Christian theology opened new perspectives for understanding human experience and faith. Her works continue to be studied and respected by philosophers and theologians worldwide. Her research on empathy is particularly relevant, offering deep insights into how we understand and relate to others. This work continues to influence studies in psychology, ethics, and philosophy. Edith's approach to empathy highlights the importance of genuine and compassionate connection between people. In theology, Edith shed new light on Carmelite spirituality and Christian mysticism. Her writings on mystical union and the experience of God are considered classics, contributing to a deeper understanding of spiritual life. She integrated her philosophical training with her faith, creating a unique synthesis that continues to inspire many. Edith also influenced Catholic education, especially regarding the formation of women. She advocated for an integral approach that combined intellectual and spiritual development. Her ideas about education remain relevant, promoting a holistic view of human development. Edith Stein's philosophical and theological legacy is vast and enduring. Her ideas continue to resonate, offering new ways to understand faith, reason, and human experience. Her work is a testament to how the search for truth can lead to profound and transformative discoveries. Edith Stein is an important symbol of interfaith dialogue. Her spiritual journey, from Judaism to Catholicism, reflects a deep search for truth and understanding. Her life and writings are an example of how different religious traditions can enrich each other. As a Jewish convert to Catholicism, Edith Stein deeply understood the traditions of both religions. She valued her Jewish roots and saw her conversion to Christianity as the fulfillment of her spiritual quest. Her life is a testimony to the possibility of harmony and respect between different beliefs. Edith wrote about the importance of dialogue and mutual understanding between Jews and Christians. She believed that this dialogue could promote peace and reconciliation. Her vision continues to inspire efforts to build bridges between different religious communities, promoting peaceful coexistence. Edith Stein's canonization as a martyr of faith highlighted her role as a figure of reconciliation and understanding. She is remembered not only for her faith and courage but also for her commitment to interfaith dialogue. Her life is an example of how respect and understanding can overcome divisions. Edith Stein is celebrated as a defender of human dignity and religious freedom. Her story inspires many to seek peace and justice through dialogue and cooperation. Her legacy continues to be a source of inspiration for those who work for reconciliation between different religious traditions. Edith Stein's life is a powerful example of holiness in times of adversity. Her courage and faith in the face of Nazi persecution show how true holiness can shine even in the darkest circumstances. Edith faced hatred and violence with unshakable faith and a spirit of compassion. Her decision to enter the convent and her life of prayer and study show her commitment to her vocation. Edith believed that her monastic life had a greater purpose, offering her prayers and sacrifices for the good of humanity. Her dedication to religious life is a testimony to her deep spirituality. Edith's courage in the face of persecution and her willingness to accept martyrdom are examples of her holiness. She did not retreat in the face of danger but faced death with dignity and faith. Her story reminds us that holiness is not just a matter of a quiet life but can manifest powerfully in times of suffering. Edith Stein shows us that holiness involves a deep commitment to truth and justice. She dedicated her life to the search for truth, both in her academic career and in her spiritual journey. Her life is a testimony to how the search for truth can lead to a life of holiness and service. Edith Stein, known as Saint Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, left a lasting legacy that continues to inspire people around the world. Her life is a testimony of faith, courage, and the search for truth. From her academic contributions to her final sacrifice, Edith shows us the power of faith and reason. Edith Stein is remembered not only for her courage in the face of Nazi persecution but also for her profound contributions to philosophy and theology. Her life is an example of how faith can transform and illuminate the search for truth. Edith Stein's legacy is an invitation to reflect on human dignity, justice, and compassion. Her story challenges us to live with integrity and to seek the truth, even in the most difficult circumstances. Edith reminds us of the importance of interfaith dialogue and the need to build bridges between different communities. Edith Stein's life influences many to seek holiness in their own lives. Her example of faith, courage, and dedication to truth is a beacon of hope and inspiration. Edith Stein shows us that, even in times of great adversity, it is possible to live a life of profound meaning and purpose. Saint Edith Stein is an eternal testimony to the power of faith and reason. Her legacy endures, challenging us to live with courage, compassion, and commitment to truth. Her life is a shining example of how holiness can shine even in the darkest circumstances. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave your like, and share this video with someone who, like you, seeks every day to follow a path of faith and holiness. God bless you, and see you in the next video. Saint Edith Stein, pray for us.